This is fresh off the press.
Fresh off the press. We won't tell you what it is quite yet, but it's extremely exciting. We've got another exciting thing to tell you about on this episode of Spill the Tea. We have a very special guest arriving.
We do.
Now, he is somebody that you've come across before, but very infrequently.
Yeah.
Because his appearances are made quite sparingly, but he's agreed to come today.
But when he is on, people get really excited.
They do get very excited. So he will be joining in about 10 minutes?
10,
15
minutes,
something like
yeah.
that.
So stay tuned.
It's a he, so you've got a hint. But before that, Julie, you were going to bring up something else, which is astonishing.
Well, exactly, because it is, of course, Spill the Tea, where we try to give you an update on everything that's been happening over the past 2 weeks. We'd like to do it weekly, but because there is so much going on every week, but we just can't really find the time. So it's every 2 weeks. Anyway, this is just fresh off the press, and it is there's 4 sections in my Mapperton coffee table book. I can't even tell you the title yet. I can't even tell you the name of the sections. I'm not allowed to do any of that. But what I can tell you is that I have completed one whole section, which is about 9,000 words in total. And most of the photography has been finished. And in fact, as soon as we wrap here at Spill the Tea, we have our main photographer, Jessica, who's coming to sort of pick up any of these in this section. And I'm 3/4 of the way with section 2. And then she's going to pick up a lot of those photographs as well. But I can't give anything away. You can't say anything.
Let me have a look.
You can't.
I can read.
No, you can't.
I can read a sentence.
No, you can't. You cannot read a sentence.
I'll do 2 words.
Okay.
Wine and mince pies flowing freely.
Okay. It was technically mulled wine.
That's true. Mulled wine and mince pies flowing freely. Alliteration.
There we go.
That is going to draw people in, because that is beautifully written, by the way. And as if that's not enough, all I can say is that I have now read one of the chapters, and I just want to congratulate you, because it's beautifully written.
Thank you.
It's really warm, it's really personal, and it really brings Mapperton to life. It kind of reminds me of all the things that happen through the years, and all of the things that repeat themselves through each season, which you sort of forget until you look at it from the outside. So I think it's going to be the most wonderful book, and I can't wait to read the rest of it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, he's here.
I'm here. I've arrived.
Our guest has arrived just in time.
We said
Special guest.
that you were going to be here in about 10 minutes, but
it's a bit more than that.
It's a bit less than that, actually, because we only just started. So if we give you that on there, and then you sit here.
Right, so sit down.
You can listen in for the whole thing. So this is William's first appearance on Spill the Tea.
Spill the Tea.
Do you know what Spill the Tea is?
It's where you give a little update.
Yeah.
What's going on.
It's where we spill the bean. It should be spill the bean, shouldn't it? Not tea.
Oh no, tea is more English.
Tea is a bit more English.
Beans would be more William, because he loves baked beans. Is that true?
Yeah, I do but I like tea as well. So I don't think Spill the Beans has the same ring to it. I think that put people off.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it echoes the idea that we're giving people behind the scenes insights.
By the way, do you want a cup of tea?
You
want a cup of tea?
I'm okay, all right.
Yeah.
I could get him a cup of
Can
tea.
you?
Okay.
Yeah. Why don't you get him a cup of tea?
Yeah.
And can I have one too?
Yeah.
Just normal tea.
Normal tea, but any milk, anybody?
Yes, please, a little bit of milk.
Luke?
Can I just have a herbal one? What I really want is a mint tea. But every time I look for mint tea, we've got about 1,000 different types of tea, but mint seems to be the only one that's missing. Anyway,
what's in there? What's that one?
this is Mummy's tea.
But what's it?
Mummy's
It's turmeric.
Tea is turmeric. I'll have a turmeric if there isn't.
Yeah, there's a turmeric, and it's herbal.
That's
herbal.
That you say. I say herbal.
Herbal. We mustn't make fun of American pronunciation, because we have a lot of Americans watching, and of course, There is no correct pronunciation. There is an American way of saying things, and there is a British way of saying things.
When it's your mum, it's okay.
Exactly.
Just about.
It's okay.
Did you say milk, William?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
William has just come down from Durham University, where he is studying. I don't think you use the expression "come down" in America, but it is an expression
Come back.
Come back.
We would say come back.
Come back. And I suppose it is down because Durham is actually in the north of England.
It's northeast, so it's the
Northeast.
complete opposite of southwest.
Yeah.
So it really is,
It's quite
the
a
opposite ends of England.
Getting here by train is quite a business, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's two separate trains. It's one from Durham to London, which is about 2 hours and 40 minutes, which isn't actually that bad, as you'd think. It looks far longer than it actually is. But then, obviously, it's about another 2 hours and a half to get to Crewkerne.
And you've got to change. You've got to go.
And you've got to change. You've got to go to
King's
King's Cross to Clapham Junction,
Clapham
which
Junction.
is another probably about an hour or
Cross.
something like that.
Yeah. So it's
So it's
basically
pushing like 6, 7. It's a whole day excursion, really. I don't think I've ever done it in one day.
it's a day's travel, isn't it?
Yeah, but Americans are used to these long travels, remember?
Yes, but not on trains.
No, driving.
You either fly or you drive. I've never really understood that about the States, but they just don't seem to be good at long-distance trains.
It's a huge country. We just don't have good enough connections of trains between the states.
Apart from freight trains.
Yeah.
Because as we saw when we were just in Mississippi, you have those absolutely
they're
endless
amazing.
freight trains with anyway, we're really digressing. William is therefore on holiday now, so your term is finished and the summer is yours.
It is trying to pick up bits of work because university is expensive and it eats away my money. So I'm trying to get a bit of a head start for next year.
And you just did, because you were working last night. What were you doing last night?
I was working at a pub in London, which ended quite late, as pubs do. So got
Putting
back.
pints? How many pints?
Putting pints, good amount. It was my first shift back after a while, so a steady, easy amount. It was good fun. It was very good fun. But I was quite exhausted in the morning, so to come.
We did it. We had quite
here.
an early start from London. We picked up William and we came down, and we got here at about 11 o'clock or something. I did give you a nice breakfast.
I was a sleepy passenger.
You did. You slept the
I was
whole
a very sleepy passenger.
whole way down. And in order to make a bit more money, William, as well, you are working this weekend, aren't you?
Not this weekend, the next weekend.
Next weekend,
That's right.
at our biggest wedding we've ever had here. William will be bar managing.
Yes.
And it's
Exciting.
the biggest, we have 180 people here.
And you're going to be bar manager, and that is the first time that you have been bar manager.
Yeah, because I worked at the wedding last weekend.
And you've worked last year.
And I've worked last year, and I've worked a bit this year, so I've sort of done a few. And they've all been, mostly fairly quite light and easy going. I think I've been quite fortunate with numbers wise. But this is a big step up. Debut as bar manager as well, so being thrown, into the deep end, but it's fine. Just do it.
Just do it. Who's in your team? I have a feeling you have another family member.
I don't know.
Do you have a family member?
No, he's retired.
Oh, he's retired.
He's retired, yeah.
What, Nestor's retired?
He was managing a wedding 2 weeks ago, and I think he sort of decided it wasn't for him.
You're not being very generous to your brother here.
Being honest.
I hope he doesn't watch this video, because,
I think he'd probably agree.
He might
No, I think he is working that wedding. You're both working it. He's not. He's just going to be bar shift.
I wouldn't mind bossing him around.
Now, Nestor is similarly exhausted because he has just come back from his first cross-channel sailing voyage. He was one of 2 people on a sailing boat heading over from Lymington, which is just north of the Isle of Wight, in the south of England, about an hour from here. And they sailed around the Isle of Wight in a race, and they got all the way to Alderney, which is just off the French coast. It's one of the Channel Islands, and they didn't win.
They didn't win. But, they did.
It's the taking part. It is the taking part, isn't it? It is not the winning.
Participation.
So he was very pleased with that. And then they went from Alderney to Cherbourg, where they spent a day. And Nestor sent me a message saying he was off to buy baguette.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we
Is he
go.
bringing some home? Did he bring
No.
any home?
Oh, no.
No, we didn't
I
see
haven't brought
anything in his
back.
bag. No.
So that's not very generous of him, is it? No. But he has now crossed the channel, and he went back the same way the day after. And when you're crossing on a boat, you do 3 hours on and 3 hours off. So 3 hours on watch and 3 hours off watch. And he said it was absolutely exhausting. And one of his watches, he woke up and he felt a bit seasick. So that was a bit discouraging. But he felt better quite soon after waking up. So yeah.
And obviously going all throughout the night as well.
Yes, all through the night, exactly.
Is
Yeah. You're doing 3 hours on,
3 hours off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
and you're crossing also the world's busiest shipping lane. So the channel has a section in the middle where you have cargo vessels just going constantly through the night, every couple of nautical miles. And so you have to weave your way as a small sailing boat in between the cargo vessels, and it can be quite hairy. Sometimes you're on the radio saying, please turn, I'm a very small boat.
What about you and your brother doing that sometime?
To France?
Yeah, the two of you, because William is a very good sailor as well.
Well, not as good as Nestor. We'd have to do a few warm-up legs, I think.
Right. Or with Dad, you could go the three of you.
Yeah.
Well, Isle of Wight is coming up, and I don't know if he's taking his boat here.
He might be. He's also, Nestor is
there.
going to be earning some money teaching sailing. So while William is pulling pints, Nestor is teaching sailing as a way of getting some holiday cash. Now, we're going to come back to William in a second, but before we do that, we need to mention something really important, which is that we are in the final stretch of a drive to reach 500 patrons.
So
we are
these
at 485. And 85. We've got 15 to go. And we would just love to get to 500.
So these are what we're calling our founding 500. So the Mapperton 500. And so it's, for us, Luke's going to talk about it in a second, how important our patrons have been on this journey here on Mapperton Live. And these founding 500 will be sent a digital certificate. They'll be sent what we're calling a digital scrapbook. So the history of the Montague family from some old photos from some of the photo albums from the 7th Earl and the 8th Earl in particular. I will be organizing that, and it'll be a fantastic digital scrapbook. And again, you'll be getting a digital wallpaper, and it's just for those who get to that 500. So if you're number 501, you're not going to be in the founding 500.
Well, we might squeeze the 501. Come on, that wouldn't be fair, would it? I feel really...
Anyway, that is what we're saying is it is the founding 500.
And if you are already a patron, then you are automatically a member of the Mapperton Live Founding 500, or Mapperton 500 for short. But there are 15 places left. So please do consider joining up. Patrons have been such an important source of support for Mapperton. We've been able to do so many projects here at Mapperton linked to the restoration of the house, the restoration of the gardens, the restoration in particular of bits of stonework. The pools. There's more to say on that project as well. We've obviously benefited enormously from creating this community of people who've become our friends as well. Many of whom we talk to quite frequently through our live Q&As. So if you join at the Hogarth tier or above, then you get invited to a live Q&A every couple of months with us. There are a host of other benefits as well.
Check them out.
You can see all of these at patreon.com/Mapperton Live. We've got 5 different tiers to choose from. See if you can help us get to that 500 figure.
This is the last push. We want to get the founding 500. And, we'll be... we are always trying to change it and add things to our tiers as well. So do, again, check it out. It means so much to us. Okay, right.
So back to other things to talk about. So William has got his summer mapped out. William, one of the things that we're doing today... Well, mapped out. That's quite good, isn't it? I haven't even noticed that.
Very good, yeah.
Is it,
excellent.
Is it as good as maple juice?
MapperJuice is pretty good.
That's quite good.
MapperJuice
I can't claim that. Who came up with maple juice?
I think it was an obvious one. It wasn't hard.
Maybe I can claim it.
No, you can't claim it, but it wasn't difficult. I think actually a couple of the patrons came up with it, to be perfectly honest.
Sorry about that little segue.
Yeah, well, the last time that you saw William actually would have been in relation
Contributing to the maple
to maple juice,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
true.
So there was a link there. Yeah.
Although I think I made a brief cameo in the cafe.
In the cafe,
Yeah. But if we were to do a maple map, it would link you from the maples that we picked.
Okay, let's move
today's
on from this.
Wouldn't it?
I really regret.
Yeah, let's segue
I just
on.
thought you
It made me regret bringing that
Now,
one
you
up
two are
as well.
doing something today.
So, William and I today, we got an interesting day coming up because every so often at Mapperton we have to think really hard about the longer term, because the point about these houses and estates is that we can, we plan each year for the following year, and there are various things that we're doing now, including, of course, all of the YouTube and the Patreon work that we planned a few years ago, which are now doing really well and we're really pleased with. And thanks to so many of you as viewers and subscribers and patrons.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're always thinking about the longer term as well. And William is an important part of the longer term at Mapperton, because we hope that at some point he will be keen to pick up the reins and help take this place into, maybe not into the 22nd century, but certainly into the second half.
You never know these days with all this
true.
technology.
Yeah, you could sort of cryogenically
and all the cells.
allow yourself to be reconstituted in 100 years' time. Maybe I could do that too. I'll be with you forever.
You'll be an AI.
You'll
be a hologram or something.
Yeah, I'll be a hologram on your shoulder, of sitting there, whispering in your ear.
Yeah.
Anyway,
saying don't do that. No, just kidding.
The point of this today was really to have a walk around Mapperton. We've got two trustees, so people may know that Mapperton itself sits inside a trust, and as a result of that, we have trustees who are incredibly supportive and helpful, particularly when it comes to thinking about these long-term things. And we're just going to have a walk around, and we're going to have a look at the estate, and we're going to talk about some possible different ideas for the future that would enable Mapperton to survive and thrive, as I say, well into the late 21st century. And some of those things are quite interesting. I think we might have mentioned one or two of them before. There are basically three current ideas for big projects for us to take on. And the first of those is the conversion of the Coltley farm buildings. These are the buildings up at Coltley that could be converted into wonderful holiday accommodation.
So where our 4-bedroom farmhouse that
is.
we just recently completed, that area.
So that area has two other buildings. It's got one large building that is falling down, which was the barn. And we did have plans a while ago to convert that into a 7-bedroom house. However, because the foundations would have to go so deep and we wouldn't know how many of them were needed, the sand underneath it basically that extends about 18 metres, it was going to be just too expensive to be viable. So we're hoping that we will be able to reuse the stone from that and then extend one of the other buildings and convert one of the others. So that would be potentially another couple of houses for wonderful holiday accommodation. So that's sort of idea number one. Idea number two is linked to Marsh Farm, which is the farm that you pass when you drive into Mapperton from the main road. And it's one of the only areas which is really useful at Mapperton that is quite flat. Mapperton's topography is just like this, up and down.
Yeah.
And so there are a variety of different things we can do there. There's another barn which would convert really well into a house, but it could also convert into what's called a camping barn, which would be a place where school groups and others could come. You just could make it watertight, put in some basic facilities, some bunk beds, etc. And then the stalls around it could also be converted either for sort of light commercial, so we could have some offices. We could even move the estate office over there. Or we could have it as the sort of starting point for your Mapperton Wildlands experience. So it could be that there's a little bit of a shop. I'm not going to say farm shop because
I think farm shops are really,
just really
we've
difficult to
been
do.
advised actually against a farm shop that unless somebody says unless you have a lot of chimney stacks right in your area that you can
we just don't have the population density.
They said don't do it.
You need a main road near.
We need a lot of chimney stacks.
We need a lot of people, who are regularly going past, who want to come in and get food. And there are wonderful farm shops already here doing well. We wouldn't want to compete necessarily with those. And then the third big idea is around some bespoke designer cabins that we would put into Homewood. So we might have 4 or 5 of these.
Explain what Homewood is for people who don't know. Just as an area that you name on the...
Everybody knows what Homewood is.
No, not new subscribers.
Well, I'm sure they do. I mean...
No, not new people who are watching for the first time.
Well, it's the wood close to home, isn't it? That's why it's called Homewood.
Okay.
Do you think?
A bit patronising, isn't it?
Yeah, it was so terrible.
Okay.
That's just terrible. I
get
no idea.
I get 2 of them ganging up on me.
I mean,
here,
as the
you see.
American, and
Because,
most of our subscribers
when it's
are North
viewers,
American.
it's fair enough.
This is unusual. By the way, we're going to get criticism for talking over each other because I always get criticism for that. You get
I've
it as
been
well.
very good today.
And that was all 3 of us talking at the same time, which is impossible for people to follow.
Well, when you say something like that, then you're going to get that.
Homewood is the wood close to home. It's also one of these very rare places at Mapperton which has got a flat section. It's got quite good access from the road, and there's a wonderful vista view looking down the valley where you could put these wonderful cabins, and we would potentially design them individually, and then people would have a real back to nature experience. We might even, and this was a question for you, William, want to include a phone safe. So you arrive, you take your devices, you stick them in the safe, and it doesn't give them back to you until the time of your departure.
That is a good idea. And there's quite a few. I mean, I've seen that there are a few sort of like camps sites that do that. I've seen in France there's one where to read or watch some video about. It's basically some phone-free 3-day sort of excursion, and everyone says they enjoy it. It just gives you a little bit of break.
I think that's a really good idea. And we could also think about, if we've got 5 cabins, you could have a sort of communal barbecue area, possibly, maybe a sauna.
Yes, we know saunas are huge.
People really like hot tubs.
Yep.
What do you
I'm
think?
looking over at Chris. I knew he was going to nod.
Chris, are you nodding for hot tubs?
He wants to go.
I get a lot of work done if there's a hot tub.
And you're not going to get a lot of work done if there's a device safe as well.
No words.
Do you like the sound of that? So that,
Of sort of clocking out from the digital. It means people couldn't watch us on YouTube though.
But well, that's all right.
Well,
They need to switch off.
And people would take their kids as they're sort of more desperate to get kids off phones and.
Yeah, but also for the Gen Zers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that
is William a Gen Zer?
No. Yes. Yes.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, you're a Gen
No,
Z.
I'm Gen Z.
You're Gen Z.
We're Gen. What are we? Are we
I
boomers?
have no idea
You're
what
Gen
we are.
X, you know.
We're Gen X.
Gen
I think
X.
we're Gen X. Yeah. Who came up with these
you?
gens, by the way? Who came up with all
Yeah.
this?
You're not. So Gen Z, I think, starts in 1997. Am I right on that?
Right.
Anyway, so you might be in. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you just missed it, Chris.
Anyway,
Yeah, that's true.
we're going slightly off piste. Back to these 3 big ideas. So the idea was to walk around with trustees and with William, look at these places and just sort of talk about what might be possible. Because if we were able to do, at least 1 or 2 of these things, these might be really helpful ways of generating income to also help support this place into the future. Because one of the jobs that I've got coming up, and I'm not really looking forward to it, if I'm honest, is I've got to map out over the next 5 years all of our renovation costs linked to the core buildings. So we're talking about the main house, we're talking about the rectory, we're talking about the stable blocks, we're talking about the church, we're talking about all of the areas in the garden. And we've just had this stonework survey completed, and we're now in the process of costing each element of that, and then working out what the schedule needs to be. What are the really high priority items? One of the high priority items Julie and I were talking about in the car today, and that is the pergola, the wonderful pergola in the garden with the wisteria. But over time, some of the columns of the pergola have started looking a little bit more leaning Tower of Pisa than Big Ben.
Well, also
wouldn't you
because
say?
the pergola was moved. So when your grandfather and your great-grandfather built the orangery, the pergola was up there, so right by the orangery, and he shifted it and moved it down. And that's all right. I mean, it's fantastic where it is. But, you know, if you think about that, when your grandfather built that, that was in the 60s. So, you know, we're at, you know, almost 70 years.
Well, he built it without putting any real foundation in. So over time, they've just sort of sunk in.
He just
I
moved
think,
it.
I have a feeling the Leaning Tower of Pisa is about 5 degrees off, maybe 6. And I think some of these are getting sort of close to that. And the Leaning Tower of Pisa apparently is okay. So maybe these can lean. It does look quite small.
I think also you've got to look at the Chinese wisteria on top because it's quite heavy as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I don't know when your grandfather moved the pergola, you know, what was growing on top. Was anything growing? From the pictures I've seen before, it didn't look like anything was up there.
Yeah.
So perhaps
there's extra weight.
There's extra weight, exactly.
Anyway, so that will be part of the planning that we have coming up, and that will be one of the upcoming restoration projects. Of course, there are other restoration projects, but before we go into that, and I know Julie's going to give us a Tapestry update. William, I don't think you know this because you weren't here, but last week we had a visit from Derek Gow. Now, Derek Gow is an extraordinary man. He's responsible for more missing species reintroductions in the UK than almost anybody else. He's got beavers, he's got water voles, he's got storks, he's got lynx. He's got wildcats. He's got almost everything that is missing from the landscape here, and he has been supporting estates that want to bring some of these animals back. And indeed, he supplied the beavers that we have at Mapperton. He also supplied the Exmoor ponies, and this time he was here to talk about storks. He was here to do a feasibility survey, to walk around the estate, and to see if there are any suitable sites. And more importantly, well, sites for their nests, but more importantly, to see if there was suitable food for storks. And the answer to both was yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
That
And
is
the
exciting.
good news is that your brother happened to be on site to take him round with a camera. And Chris, I think, was filming. How'd it go?
Yeah, it went good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think we came up with a few options to give to you.
We've got some options now for a location, and I've heard about one of them. It's slightly controversial, but I quite like it.
I like it.
I quite like it.
Well,
But that will all be coming out in the video.
That's a big reveal.
That's a big reveal. It's a big reveal. Yeah, you can't. William is learning how to do this. You can't give away the
Can't give it away
reveals.
too cheaply.
Yeah. Have you got any reveals coming up in your life that we should know about?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
There must be one or two.
No,
Come on.
there's no.
No. Okay. It's all under wraps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, from one possible restoration, or really, I should just say project, as in building the aviary, it's to a restoration project, which is, of course, the tapestries. And so many of you have donated towards that. In fact, 2 projects are ongoing right now. So number 1, I'll start with the tapestry. I went all the way to Hereford. Never been there before. Didn't realize how close it is to Wales. Super close. Took me about 3 hours from Mapperton. So I did a 6-hour round trip that day, then headed up to London. As William was talking about the trains to and from here, that's another 2.5 hours. So I did in total 8.5 hours of traveling that day. But it was worth it because I was able to visit Emma Telford, who is the UK's leading tapestry conservator, and go and visit her at her wonderful workshop. And rolled up there, it's all filmed, so it's coming soon. Rolled up was an enormous tapestry from Blenheim Palace, and she'll be working on that next after our tapestry is completed.
How big was the Mapperton tapestry next to the Blenheim Palace tapestry?
It was rolled up. And let's look at the size of Blenheim compared to the size of Mapperton.
And size really doesn't matter, does it?
So they have
It's about stories.
They have a lot more wall space, let's put it that way. But I'm really excited about this, what I was able to see, in particular the cleaning process. And both Em and I were really surprised, and I think you'll be quite surprised, as we thought it was going to be dirtier than it was. So watch that video when it comes up. It's still quite dirty, don't get me wrong. But
By the way, it's that camera.
I am. I'm looking at that
Are
camera.
you looking at that one?
Yeah.
You're looking at that one.
No, I'm looking at that one.
Oh, right.
So it wasn't black. We thought it was going to be black, and I had visited Brussels before, where there's a big tapestry conservation company, really, called DeWitt's there, and organization, and I had seen a lot of their tapestries there, and some of the water that they had that was coming out was actually black, because they say that England has the dirtiest tapestries due to all the coal that had been burned, in the past. So that was very exciting to see the cleaning process and to actually clean myself. And now she's starting to work on a little bit more of the peacock. And so those of you who are on Buy Me a Coffee and have supported it, you will be getting an update. You should have gotten an update today in particular about the peacock, because that was so exciting, but I don't want to give it away. That's number one. Number two are, of course, the 16 millimeter cine reels, and there's 15. I thought there were 13, but there's actually 15 in total. So those have been shipped to, and they've arrived safely to a place in Devon. Now, this place in Devon works with like the big boys. I'm talking a lot of BBC old content. And so we're in a queue right now because we're not of the utmost importance, because there's
Really?
yeah compared to
Not
like
bad, isn't it?
Rather complain.
I know about
You
BBC.
think we'd come quite high up the list, wouldn't you, Will?
But what we'll be filming soon is Luke just found something that I hadn't been aware of, which documented from your
Each
father.
of the reels. So my father had written a short guide to each of the reels, so we know roughly who's
Yeah.
on which reel. And there's so many exciting things to look at on there.
So
when are
exciting.
we going to see that?
So as soon as they get digitized, then of course Buy Me a Coffee supporters will see elements of it first, and then we're just going to have to do a viewing party. I'll have to go through them first,
A viewing party.
and then
Can we do that with our
Of
viewers?
course we can. So
You'll be invited.
We'll do a viewing party, and I think that will be really well. We might just do it for patrons or something. So do sign up to
That's
Patron.
why you've got to be, founding 500.
That's right. That's exactly
No
what. Look,
reason.
he's getting the hang of it. Fantastic.
Mapperton 500.
Mapperton. It's called the Mapperton 500.
As well, the founding 500.
Well,
no,
both.
There's two different titles. Mapperton Live Founding 500. The hashtag is
Right.
Mapperton 500.
Mapperton 500.
Yeah, but that's all right.
Well,
No,
it's,
it's really good.
good.
It's really good. And also,
Worth the attempt.
for you to be picking up on that and bringing it up close to the end of this video is brilliant, because
That's a good segue.
this is the moment when we want to remind people that we are at 485 patrons and we would love to get to 500. And
Be
it
a
would
part
be-
of the founding
it would be
500.
fantastic
The
if,
Mapperton 500.
if you could be one of the Mapperton
Yeah.
500.
So
Now,
I think-
I normally have a list of things here just to make sure that we haven't forgotten anything
Yes,
really
you do.
important, because sometimes we finish this and we'll go, oh my God, we didn't talk about whatever it was.
Well, I think you've got
You haven't talked about paint.
Well, I thought you could talk about the spending review, because people were really interested in that the last time we talked about that.
I don't know whether that's that interesting.
Well,
I mean, I think that we talked before about some of the concerns that people have who are running farms and estates in this country with the way that the current government has been increasing the amount of tax that these farms pay, because in the past they haven't had to pay inheritance tax, and now that's been pushed up to 20%, which is a very sizable amount for a lot of farms in particular that have very limited income. So that's been a real issue. But one of the things we were all really worried about was that there was a risk, and in fact it was leaked to one of the major national newspapers, that the government, in its recent what's called spending review, this is where it sets the departmental budgets for the next few years for each of the different government departments, was going to rein in, possibly cancel some of the programs, the projects that were targeted for nature restoration, funding nature restoration. And so we had a very anxious time, a couple of weeks, when the Chancellor got up and started talking about all of this. But I'm pleased to say that as it turned out, they haven't cancelled these projects. They will continue to fund places like Mapperton Wildlands and lots of other places as well that are doing good work for nature, because it's only through that that we're going to be able to meet some of the goals that we have to reverse biodiversity and to set aside 30% of the countryside for nature by 2030. And we were very lucky the other day because we had the head of Natural England come to Mapperton. In fact, he came to stay. We had a lovely time, called Tony Juniper, where he came to see the project that we have at Mapperton and also the wider project that we have, which is called the Brick Valley project that we are a part of, helping encourage neighbours and other local farmers to join nature recovery efforts through both a combination of things like regenerative farming, so changing your farming practice to prioritise looking after the soil, but other things like wetland creation, species-rich grassland creation, woodland creation, wood pasture creation, and so on. So that all went incredibly well. And Tony Juniper mentioned us after the visit here.
Did he?
In one of his talks, and said that the Brick Valley project was an exemplar of what could be done when a community comes together. So that was very
exciting.
And I sent him away just because it's always good to loop back around to where you started with a bottle of maple juice.
Oh, did you?
He just about fitted it in his bag.
Good.
Yeah.
And just a segue onto that.
He also got, by the way,
what did he get?
and you're going to be a bit upset about this, because there's very few left. He got a jar of Beryl's chutney.
Okay, well, I'm not upset by that.
Because you're not a chutney eater, are you? Chutney is... I couldn't live without chutney. Americans don't get chutney. I don't understand why.
Not so much. I like it. Don't get me wrong.
Beryl's chutney is quite something.
That's a bit of a loss.
It is a bit of a loss, isn't it?
He's more upset than I am.
I thought the maple juice might have been enough.
Yeah.
But that quickly segues me into the day that the spending review is coming out. We actually had a film crew here. I'm really sorry, we can't give hardly anything away, but all we can say is that we have a film crew arriving tomorrow and on Friday, and we're filming something very, very exciting here at Mapperton, and that's pretty much all I can say.
We gave away mulled wine and mince pies for your book, so we can give away a little nugget.
You can't. Don't. I wouldn't.
I'd
be very careful.
I'd
be
Do I even know this?
Yeah, you may not even know about it.
I would be very careful on that. I wouldn't.
Yeah. By the way, do you want to join the filming?
Oh yeah. Do you?
Yeah.
No. Please don't.
I'll have a think about it.
Okay. This is going to be broadcast on one of the main channels. We can say that. Yeah.
That's all we can say.
Very exciting.
And so
that's about it.
So I think that's it. I was going to mention quickly Mylands Paint. So many of you are booking into our 4-bedroom farmhouse and also the 2-bedroom Keeper's Cottage, which I renovated, well, alongside a team of people, but renovated both of them. But we used in both of those cottages Mylands Paint, and it's a fantastic paint establishment based in London, and their colors are wonderful. Anyway, they came down, I guess it was last week or the week before, and they did a huge photo shoot because we've used the lovely paint in the library. So that is a gorgeous, it's called John's Pantry. That's from the Beata Human paint, I guess, palette. Collection. And then we used, in the Monument Room, we've used Mylands Paint, and the wall color there is Serpentine, and then you've got elements of like Brompton Road and Huguenot. Fantastic. And then, of course, at Keeper's Cottage, we used all their paint colors there. And then, again, we used paint colors at the farmhouse. And so they did big photo shoots that day, which was really fun.
Thank you very much to Mylands for supplying all the paint. And the cottages are really booking well. If you're interested in staying at one of Mapperton's cottages, please go to mapperton.lodgify.com.
Details down below.
And the 3 cottages are all there as well. And the details
they're in the
down below.
description.
Right, I think we've overrun. And we've done everything on our list. And we've had William here for a long time, which has been a pleasure.
Which is great. And you
finish your tea.
It's good time.
So I think we're going to say goodbye.
So we can't spill the tea anymore. We've all finished it.
I've survived.
All right.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye-bye.